Welcome to episode 115 of the Loane Hockey Podcast. And today I want to talk about Blake Fiddler from the Edmonton Oil Kings, who is up for the 2025 NHL draft. And so with Fiddler, he's a guy that's off to a really strong start this season in the WHL. And they obviously have some additions in terms of some newcomers in that team. And then they have a good group in Edmonton as well. And with Fiddler, he's a guy that's really stood out offensively and on that side of the puck this year. And coming into the season, he looked as if he was projected to be a second or third round guy. I would imagine, and I wouldn't be surprised by the end of this season if he ends up being a consensus first round pick, where he's a guy that can play a little bit of everything and do a little bit of everything. He's a leader. He's a guy who can play in all situations. He can play an offensive role. He can play a defensive role. I would say his offensive game has really evolved ever since youth hockey, and he was playing with the Dallas Stars Elite AAA program. Obviously, his dad is Vernon Fiddler, and Vernon played for the Dallas Stars, that being the NHL team. And so with Blake, he's a guy that stands out in terms of his movement and his lateral play and his lateral agility. And he's got rangy footwork. He's got rangy ability within his feet to be able to move across the line laterally. And a guy that really works well with his feet and simultaneously with his hands. And he's a guy that really links those two together. And he's very effective on being able to generate retrievals and being able to generate retrievals with his feet. And he's always got his feet moving in many different situations, whether it's with the puck or without. And defensively, I've always noticed his ability to play a shutdown role and his ability to mitigate line rushes. I've noticed that ever since youth hockey when he was playing with the AAA Dallas Stars program, where he would be able to be a guy who could stay square to you and stay square to your shoulders, moving laterally and positionally. And he really understood how to close plays down and how to not only shut plays down at the line with his movement, but also with his stick. And he's really detailed with his stick detail and how he's able to utilize it, because there'd be times where he would time the poke check. And you see a lot of defenders do this nowadays where they like to time their poke check. So instead of going all in on a guy physically, they can just kill the play with a simple poke check and be able to advance the play without having to use that energy on physicality. So they can just try to defend stick on puck and then try to transition quickly the other way. Because a lot of teams are built in transition nowadays, especially at the NHL level. And so having guys who are quick-minded in transition and transition offense are very helpful. Fiddler's a guy that's continuing to evolve with that and being a play driver in transition. And I wouldn't say he's necessarily the fastest, most up-tempo type of player and defenseman being able to transition pucks, but a guy who very well can do so, and he's very poised and comfortable when doing so. So that's a big asset point for any team trying to draft him and any team that's looking to develop him over the course of the next few years, where he's a guy that can really evolve his transition game and take that to the next level. I really believe that's going to be a big factor in his game because he has the offense and he has the lateral ability. He has a rangy frame. He has shutdown play. It's just how he continues to link those two together, how he links together transition defense and transition offense. So being able to link together all three zones, excuse me, and being able to be consistent at generating entries and generating exits with control. And he's a puck possession style defenseman. That's another big leverage point when it comes to him. Is he's a guy that really is strong in being able to do that. And he's really strong at being able to carry possession, carry the play. So far this season, I've noticed a lot more of that as well. Last year, he was good at it, and he didn't play as much of a role last year. He still was getting ice time, but he wasn't getting as much of a role. This year, his role for one has evolved, and also his ability to generate that with his ice time and being able to get more reps out there has really helped him. And this will only continue to help him, especially in transition scenarios. And he's going to at least need another year or two, maybe even three in the WHL where he can blossom as an offensive type defenseman. But at the same time, he's a guy right now that's really showcasing a lot of that ability. And it's really good to see in his draft year. And it's going to be interesting to see how it evolves over the course of time. over the next few years. I really believe he's a guy that will translate to the NHL level and style wise, tactical wise, the elements within his game. There's a lot of advanced components to his game that make him a guy that could very well go in the first round, like I mentioned previously. And he looks like he's going to be that type of player that ends up going somewhere in the first round. Could be mid to late first round. I don't envision him being a high draft pick, but certainly a guy that can get drafted in the mid to late first round. And there's a lot of ability within him that I really like, and it's really fun to watch within him. It just takes a lot of watching and a lot of detail to really understand what he can be. It takes multiple viewings to really understand what he can be because he's not the type of player that pops at you when you watch him for the first time. But when you watch him for a few more times, you start to notice a little more detail and other things that some other defensemen have trouble doing. And he's a guy that executes a lot of these things and makes some difficult things look easy. And again, I really believe that his transition game is going to be something that will continue to evolve heading into the future for not only the NHL team that drafts him, but also the WHL team if he continues to play in Edmonton as well.